need to set up some tech. Shall we do introductions while Pablo sets up his laptop? Donghee.
Yeah, my name is Donghee, and I'm the student council of this year. I'm from Carroll.
Yeah.
My name is Barry Warsaw, and I work for NVIDIA, and I've been on, this is my 6th year on the steering council.
I'm Savannah Ostrowski. This is my first term on the steering council. I work at Fast API Labs, and I'm also the release manager for 3.16 and 3.17.
I'm Thomas Wouters. This is me returning to the steering council because I wasn't on the steering council last year, but I have been on the steering council before. So you would know, I would think I would know better.
I'm the janitor of the steering council that sets the laptop. Hey, I'm Pablo. I'm in the steering council for forever, and I work for Hudson River Trading.
Oh, and I should mention, I work in Meta. There we are. So we were supposed to do those introductions with this slide. We're not going to do them again, don't worry. I just wanted to say I drew the short draw. Well, Savannah and I both drew short straws because we're the newbies on the steering council, sort of. So I'm going to do the boring bit, and then Savannah's going to talk about 3.15, and then we're going to take some questions that we asked of the public before. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it's a little less draining than it was before. So what does the steering council do? The steering council is 5 people. We're elected from the community by the Python core team for the Python core team, which is to say we lead the Python core team, but we're not necessarily part of the Python core team. However, all of the steering council members to date have been part of the core team. It's not necessary, but that's just how it plays out. If you are interested in running for the steering council, you don't have to be a core team member. You just need to convince core team members that you would do a good job representing them, representing the community, and evolving the language and the CPython implementation. That's a tough call, I can tell you, because I didn't get reelected last year. So we do sort of leadership of Python, of the language, of the core team. We do organizational stuff. We also do technical direction of the developers in residence, which I'll talk about more in a bit. And generally, we spend money that the PSF gives us to support Python development. And because of that, we also sort of help fundraise for the PSF. The developers in residence are a number of core developers that we pay to work on CPython. These are, up to date, have been targeted sponsorships. So Łukasz Langa started as the first core developer a bunch of years ago. That was sponsored by Google. Then Meta took over sponsorship of that role. And we added Peter and Sergey, I think last year, 2 years ago. They are sponsored by Bloomberg and by Vercel. Now, those companies don't have any say in what they do. They do not in any way direct the developers in residence. They're there to support the volunteers who do the actual development of Python. Now, they are core team members. They do a lot of the development themselves as well. So it's just that the sponsors they don't influence what the actual work is that's being done. Now, you may have heard Łukasz left as developer in residence after many years of really enjoying the work, right, Łukasz? Yes. Woo! So he left as developer in residence. He's still a core team member. I happen to know his new employer as well, because it's Meta. He's not leaving the community. He's just not doing that particular role anymore. So we will be hiring for his replacement because the sponsorship from Meta is ongoing. And there is room for growth if we have more sponsorship, if we have more funding, and it doesn't have to be a single company either, then we can add more developers in residence. It would be more work for us, for the steering council. I think that would be fine. One of the other ways we spend money is on the core team sprint, which is an event that happens September, October every year. It's been alternating between the US and Europe. This picture is from last year, which was hosted in Cambridge by ARM. This year will be in San Francisco, hosted by OpenAI, and it gives the core team who fly in from all over the world a week of really focused collaboration, discussions, technical implementation time, and it's really valuable to the development of Python language and to create a cohesive core team. And also just bring in new core team members. Like some of us have known each other for 25 years and some people are new, and this really binds them all together. It's a great way for us to spend money. Now, we do need that money, so if you like Python, I mean, you're here, you want to support the work, it all goes through the PSF. So individuals become a PSF member, companies sponsor the PSF, there's a link there, there's a URL there, go nuts. And now, Savannah.
Who's excited for Python 3.15? Well, good news is that, oh, we're going to do features first. I forgot we switched the order of these slides. Okay, well, this is some highlighted features. There's a slide at the end because there were way too many to highlight in the time that we had for this particular session. Who here has heard of lazy imports before by a show of hands? We've talked about it a lot at this conference. Cool. So Python loads every imported module when it sees the import statement, and even unused ones when, which slows down big applications, or maybe you've experienced this in a CLI. But in Python 3.15, we have this new lazy keyword that defers loading this until first use. So maybe say goodbye to nested imports, I don't know. There are also some cool tooling out there in the open source ecosystem to help you find where you might be able to use lazy imports. But yeah, very exciting new feature coming to Python. I'm going to hand it to Pablo to talk about the next one.
Which is frozen dict. So this is very cool. It's basically a dictionary that is immutable, and if hashable, if everything inside is hashable. This is kind of cool because it used to be an interview question, but now you can just use it directly. And it just works as you expect, which is very cool. We are very thorough. So yeah, very cool. Ships in Python 3.15.
More very cool. All the colors everywhere in every place. Yeah, this is like not even the complete list of all the places we've put colors in. I'm super excited about this. Huge readability improvement. Probably more to come, honestly.
So Python 3.15 is shipping a new super cool, mega, ultra performance profiler that has so many features that probably will need to pay tariff when we ship Python. But yeah, so you can profile Python for a standard library without zero overhead. And it has a lot of like pretty HTML output and very cool things. So yeah, ships in Python 3.15.
Woo, Tachyon. And again, much, much, much more. The what's new for 3.15 is very long. There's a QR code here if you want to read more. Links to PEPs, links to non-feature PEP or non-PEP features as well. Check it out. With that, please try out Python 3.15. Tell us what's broken so that we can fix it before final in October. Yeah, so beta's already out, I guess, is the TLDR, release candidate 1 in August. And it would, I can't not mention this, but we release Python annually. So 3.16 Alpha 1 mid-October, when my work really starts. So keep coming back, keep trying it out. Oh yeah, and more about contributions. We're going to be hosting a sprint room for CPython tomorrow. I think we're doing in the Seaside meeting rooms where we were last night if you were at the PyLadies auction. We would love to see you there. If you've never contributed to CPython, you are very, very much welcome. We would love to see you and help you make your first contribution. And with that, we've got some Q&A.
Do I start? Okay, so these are questions that people have submitted. We have cherry-picked the ones that we find funnier. Cool. Okay, cool. Let's go. And also, like we have, the twist is that we have asked biological and non-biological entities for questions. We will let you know which ones are which. Cool. So these are the non-biological questions. My favorite is the first one. I find it so funny that we make this image. I don't know, it's so stupid. Okay, I cannot just do it. Just
So this is a real one, and the question is, does the core team care about packaging? So I think there's been kind of a meme over the years that the core team doesn't care about packaging, that packaging is a separate thing. That's just not really true anymore, if it ever was true. The core team absolutely cares about packaging. It's part of the entire user experience, and it's a really integral part of how users consume Python, how they use it, and how they contribute their own works back to Python. So just this past year, there was a PEP 772, which establishes the Packaging Council, and yes. I think that's a really a milestone moment in the Python packaging journey. So after PyCon, we'll start the process of getting nominations and conducting the first election. And you should definitely think about it if you're involved in packaging. You need to be a PSF member to participate, which you all should be PSF members. And so then we'll establish the Packaging Council and get to work at really solving some of the problems in packaging.
I do want to point one thing out, which is I think core developers weren't like negligent of packaging, but we were both not universally cognizant of packaging. Like we have a very mostly have a very specific use case, our own, and we don't necessarily know how other people use Python, how other people want to install packages. So the core team was never really the right group of people to make all the decisions. It always needed to be way more than the core team. And that's what the Packaging Council is going to solve, hopefully. We trust the Packaging Council is going to solve.
Yeah, I'd also say that I'm really excited to work with the Packaging Council and actually like meet with the folks that get elected and figure out how to solve these tough problems. I think we, as the steering council, have a vested interest in the user experience, and yeah, just looking forward to the domain expertise.
Yeah, this question is I picked one. So the question is, when can we make the pre-threading the default? It's a very interesting question. And as the last year's steering council member, I cannot say which version will be, but when we approved the PEP 779, we mentioned about the precondition for the next step, and that the thing is that the performance overhead, memory usage, documentation, stable API, etc. And I think that everything is going very well. And that the other thing we consider is that the progress of the third-party library migration status is very important. And I think that Thomas wants to say more thing about it.
Well, I already said a bunch of these things. I had my own talk on free threading at the conference. If you're seeing this on a recording, you can zap right to that recording, hopefully, in which I predict it will probably not be 3.16, which would be next year, but it's probably going to be before 3.20, and that is me being reasonably optimistic, right? Maybe it'll take longer. We just don't know at this point, and we need way more real experience with free threading to make that call.
Yeah, I think if you are a distributor or a maintainer of a major package, especially if you're doing building C extensions and that kind of thing, test your things on both the standard build or the default build and on the free threading build, and give us feedback. How's it working for you? Are there APIs that are missing? Do you notice any performance problems, or is it working great? That kind of feedback will really help inform the steering council and the core team figure out what the right time to make the switch to free threading by default.
Yeah, I think this is quite important. As you may know, we have recently we have to take a very complex decision in 3.14 when we have to revert a change that we did in the garbage collector, and we did that in a patch release. And this is because, unfortunately, we only find that, like, it was a good change, but it didn't work quite as expected in all cases, and for some applications, was quite bad. So this is something that we couldn't see during the, the beta periods and the release candidates, and it took like 4 releases, is that correct, of 3.14? So for 3-threaded, it is even more important, right? Because it's a change that, is quite complicated to adopt less and less as time passes. But we don't want to be in a situation when we make it the default and then we find out that, it's actually not reasonable to do. So it's quite important for you to test it, but even more important to be vocal to, your package maintainers and to us if things are not working well, or if, adopting it is particularly hard. Being respectful and whatnot, but that part is very, very important going forward to ensure that we don't end in an even worse situation.
What do we consider when deciding on PEPs? I mean, there's a lot that we consider. I feel like every meeting we have when we discuss PEPs, there's a lot of different factors. I think for me personally, one of the biggest factors that I don't know, maybe is like a trigger for me if it's not in the PEP is like the user impact. So like if PEPs are being submitted and they don't have endorsements or anecdotes or some like empirical evidence that they help the body of users or extension authors or whatever, then that's kind of a smell for me. So I like PEPs that are very like user or use case driven and have good ground truth.
Surprise question. Whoa. No, give her. Yeah. I have the mic, so I have the power. So, so what is the most surprising thing that you discovered when you joined the steering council this year regarding how we consider PEPs? Like that you say, wow.
I don't know. I'm gonna get you later. I mean, I think I always knew that like a lot of care went into reviewing PEPs, but like when you actually sit and you read all of the discuss threads and you read, for some PEPs, especially PEPs like, I don't know, Sentinel values that discussions went on for like 5 years. I think it's just the amount of research and deep understanding that I needed for any one given PEP. Also, like, I'm reviewing PEPs in areas that I have historically not worked on. And so that's also like a hurdle, I think it's maybe would surprise people, but it's an excuse to do research on cool problems, so I don't know.
So for me, I always classify the PEP as a 2 category. One is that we must have, maybe the major important was for me was a must have PEP for CPython, it was very good. And the other thing was like good to have. Even I asked the author of the project, for me the project was kind of the good to have. So when I read the good to have PEP, like I always look at the impact of the PEP, like how it will be impactful for the CPython code base or the community. So I always think about like that kind of impact. Yeah.
For me, I'm the one who always bike sheds on the names. But I think even more than just like deciding on a PEP, the discussion that we have, and very often we have steering council office hours, and we'll have PEP authors come and talk to us about details about their PEP, and that's also very helpful. The thing that strikes me is the way that we work together to come to a consensus. And very often we'll start to talk about a PEP and somebody might be a -0 and another person's a +1, or all over the map. And we really talk about what is it that you like about it, what is it that you don't like, and what changes would make it more palatable. And coming up with that consensus, I think, always makes the feature that the PEP is proposing stronger. So having 4 colleagues up here that you can really trust and that you get along with and have such a deep expertise in Python and such a deep caring about the user experience really makes the whole process better.
I think the only thing I want to add is that very recently, more and more, we are trying to ensure that all PEPs that say, for instance, oh, this will be very useful for NumPy, actually reach to NumPy to double check that. so especially for PEPs that affect libraries or like the CAPI in particular, We even like sometimes reach ourselves to those communities just to ensure that we have all the picture. And if not, like we ensure that the PEP authors do, and then the answers are there, and they are actually discussed. Because we have some blind spots in the past for this, so this is something that we are trying to incorporate here even more.
For me, on PEPs proposing new features or significant changes, they fall in two categories. Either they're introducing a genuine new feature, something that enables something new, something exciting, like lazy imports, or they're removing a jagged edge. They're removing a pitfall, something that is an easy mistake for people to make. Both of those improve the language, improve the runtime, but every change has a cost. So we need to weigh the cost of the change to the promise of the feature or the pain of the jagged edge. And we see that with every single PEP. We see that trade-off. For instance, there's a proposal to add a new type of string, like string literal, that we postponed for 3.16, that feels like a worthwhile feature and solves a real pain point, but we're not sure if the feature is worth the cost. So we need more time to consider that, which is why we deferred it for 3.16. But that's a really tough decision, right?
The only other thing I'll mention is that we do have working groups, and we work with those working groups. So for example, we have a C API working group that gives us recommendations, and then we may come back to them with more questions, and we value their expertise in the C API surface because, Python is big. There's lots of moving parts, so having a good, functioning working group that we can consult with really helps too.
What's the plan for Python 4.0? I'm pretty sure you can guess. There's not going to be a Python 4.0.
We will go from 399 to 5.
If we have something beyond Python 3, it'll probably be a year-based, because at that point we should just bite the bullet and go calendar versioning. I guess I'd take this one as well. Is PEP 8.10 lazy imports planned to be backported to Python before 3.15, possibly in Python back to Python 3.10? No.
But we will backport it to 2.7.
Just in your private fork.
Next slide. This is a great time to remind you of our release schedule and which versions get which types of fixes. So this is in the dev guide, but we do 2 years or a year of feature, 2 years of bug fixes, and 3 of security, I think.
Now, yes.
Now for these versions of Python. So no. The answer is no. No backport. Oh. Oh. What are my opinions on using Rust? I'll read it in its entirety, excuse me. What are your opinions on using Rust for standard library modules? I think maybe I would say that I am optimistic. I would say that my concerns about Rust are actually primarily socio-technical concerns, and how we make sure that we can continue to get people contributing to CPython. I think there's one frame of mind where, Rust actually broadens the funnel of people wanting to contribute because Rust is very popular. I think there's another frame of mind where people don't want to learn Rust. I know Emma's thinking deeply about this problem as well. But yeah, I think right now I'm optimistic, and I look forward to the PEP.
So if I start a new project, I definitely use Rust, but using Rust in CPython is a fully different story. We should consider compiler versions or like stable API, or about pinning the Rust compiler. The many things we should consider. So same as I'm also looking for the PEP for it. Yeah.
Conceptually, Rust makes a lot of sense for things like the extension modules, where typically we might, they're fairly well isolated from the core interpreter, and we can do the kinds of experiments to figure out what it actually means to support Rust in CPython. There's a lot of things to work out about the build process, the platforms that we can support, the compilers, how all that's going to work. And so there is a plan to pick one module and write that in Rust and have it optionally part of CPython, and we're going to learn a lot by that.
I think I don't have an opinion on this. Like, I would like Rust. I like Rust. I would like Rust in CPython. How we're actually getting there and how we're supporting the platforms that currently have bad or no Rust support, that is a big problem. And I'm glad I'm not the one writing the PEP, and Emma and others are doing it instead. And yeah, we just let them do their thing. And it's going to be a multi-year project, even to decide not to do it. So it's going to be a long time before we get there, but it's definitely something we need to invest in.
Right. The only thing I want to add is that this idea of adding like other more complex languages to CPython, like C++, have been mentioned before, and it's an extremely hard problem. But I think this is the first time I'm actually hopeful that, I'm sure that this will happen. But this is a very complex thing, and it's really, really impressive that this is going at the speed it's going. So I would like a round of applause for Emma, that is doing a really good job.
Does the steering council think the standard library, aka batteries included, should shrink, stay stable, or continue expanding? The Python community's been talking about this for years and years and years. We haven't actually done much about it, although we have removed some very old libraries from the standard library. I tend to think that it's a mixed bag, because modules that are in the standard library have a very slow evolution rate, right? They are only released when a new version of Python is released. So for new libraries coming into the standard library, they have to think about, I may have been releasing my module every month or every week or every two months, and that is a complete change because they won't be able to do that. So removing things gives them a higher velocity of change. But on the other hand, it's really nice to be able to download Python and have this amazing suite of functionality. And I think that's actually been a strength of Python's over the years. So I tend to think that if we can kind of figure out how to square both circles, something like that, we could possibly do it.
For me, we should not grow the standard library much more. The standard library should be for installing other packages and things that are so fundamental that they're necessary for interoperability between packages. But the overhead of adding a package to the standard library and then maintaining it in perpetuity and making fixes and changes in lockstep with the Python language version, that is extremely painful and it's costly. And it's so much more flexible for packages to live on PyPI instead. We should do that whenever it's remotely possible.
Yeah, I think that we live in a different era that when the Python was born, we have an amazing Python package registry. So I think that the Python should only have a battery that essentially needed and essentially for bootstrapping, etc. Maybe we should move forward to the package registry, I guess.
Oh, good. Just a small question with 2 minutes left. I mean, does Python's do we want to? Okay. Well, yeah. Does Python's governance structure need to evolve again? I think there are various ways of interpreting this question. I would interpret it as I think we should always be reevaluating the governance structure that we have. Like, the team has grown a lot and changed a lot since the initial governance model came about, and I don't think that means like we need to dramatically change how the steering council operates, but things like maybe having 2-year term limit, or 2-year terms instead of 1-year term might be something we could explore for better continuity. I don't know. folks.
I've long been in favor of 2-year terms overlapping with term limits, where you need to take a break before you run again. However, it's hard to convince everyone, so it's an ongoing debate. Shall we? Oh, yeah, this is the last one.
I think
What do you think? These are our mascots.
So we have 12 pets among 5 steering council members.
Yeah, but some have more than others.
But 6 of them are mine, just so you know.
Mostly cats, but not all.
Yeah, there's one pretend cat.
Yeah,
in
no
there.
cat, just me.
Yeah, and Donghee unfortunately has no cats.
yes, it is changeable. Yeah, so I guess final plug. Please again try Python 3.15. It's like truly a stacked release with amazing features that the team works super hard on. Really excited for everyone to try it out and also tell us what we broke. Release candidate in August, final release in October. And as the release manager for 3.16, I want you to get excited about Alpha 1 in mid-October as well. We constantly develop. It's a constant process, folks. So, yeah.
Thank you.